Okay, Burning Issy, Melvin Burgess, Chapter 19, Part 1. That night I awoke to terror, which was so familiar but always surprised me. The stillness of sleep exploded, violent light pounded and beat behind my eyes. The fire was before me, burning my face, my hands, the smell of my singed hair and clothes, the heat clutching my throat, stopping my breath, the choking smoke, the hard grip of the man who held me in the flames, bruising my head and face. I'm fighting for breath, fighting to turn my head, fighting not to look, above all, not to look. Then there was Irene's voice. "Look into the fire, Issy. Look into the fire." She was still with me, even now. This time I believed her. I opened my eyes. I saw it was a woman's face that I'd never dared remember, a face I knew and loved, although I had denied her for many years. It was a face very like my own. It was the still it was the still face of one who had finished her suffering. I felt happy as I dreamed that she could not feel the fire or see me watching her, but the other me, the little girl that the soldier held aloft for the flames to lick, knew such thing. Everything happened slowly, like a story, as a memory unfolded. The flames lapped at my mother, her clothes caught fire. There was my own terrified scream. "Don't hurt her! Don't hurt my mummy!" Then there was the soldier shrieking as he twisted under my force and plunged into the flames, my own fall into the blazing embers. And then Irene struggling for me in the fire, her hair ablaze, her bandaged hands pushing at the burning wood, the crowd jeering as she hauled me out of the embers and beat out the flames. I watched it all, remembering, listening to my own baby howls across the years. I awoke shivering in the wet clay of the dungeon floor. Jeanette was shaking me and stroking my face. "There's no fire," she whispered. I shuddered and looked around me. Above me was a stroke of pale air from the window slit, letting a whisper of night. Otherwise there was the only chilled darkness, the heavy stinking air of the cell, skinny little warm Jeanette pressing close to me. "I wish there was a fire," I whispered back. I squeezed Jeanette tightly, closed my eyes, and I cried. Now I knew whose face I'd seen in the fire, and I understood why I'd been so terrified. I could see her face clearly in my mind's eye now, and forever hear my own baby voice screaming for her over and over again. We spent many more days down there. The thin slit of the window must have been hidden deep in the ground itself, as it let in only the meanest light, casting pale shadows into our darkness. We woke and fell asleep and woke again, and there was no way of knowing whether an hour, a day, or a week had passed. We spent most of our time huddled together on the damp mud in a corner, trying to keep warm. Sometimes we tried to climb up and sniff the fresh air through the slit, because it stank down there of cold clay, of stagnant water, of wet stone, and above all, ourselves. The guard who came once a day to feed us our slops emptied the bucket only when it was overflowing. At first we were expecting Parson Holden to come any day. Then we despaired of him ever coming. Now we stopped waiting. Perhaps he and Noel had failed to save us. Perhaps Baldwin had gone above their heads to the justice in Lancaster again. Or perhaps they were just keeping us to testify at the trials. We had no way of knowing, and soon we stopped even caring. The mud dirtied us, the foul air soiled us. We became so much part of the cell itself it seemed impossible to tell where the mud ended and we living creatures began. The fear disappeared behind boredom, the boredom behind hunger, and at last the close oppressive misery was all there was. Even dying seemed impossible in that place of no air. Only misery could survive. End of chapter 19, part 1.